The high drama of Holy Week and Easter Sunday may be over now, but our celebration of Easter actually continues for a whole 50 days. Now we can again shout Alleluia as we watch every one of the existential problems of humanity, all the fears, the pains, the conflicts, all of it resolved in one great act by God. An act that we are all invited to participate in. For the truth has been revealed to us, all of the illusions dispelled. We are a people saved by a loving God. And in this season of Easter that continues, we will be shown again and again by God that the powers of death can hold no dominion over us. That the world is not, after all, nasty, brutish, and short, as the English philosopher Thomas Hobbes once said to justify the authoritarian rule of a monarch. No, Easter reveals to us that this is not, in fact, the kind of world we live in. But this, of course, leaves us in a bit of a dilemma. There is a reason why Thomas Hobbes's view of the world is such a popular one. After all, even a casual viewing of the news reveals a world that is brimming full of conflict, of violence and famine, of unchecked greed and corruption, of war and invasion. We may well trust that Christ's resurrection changes everything, but it certainly still looks like, between the shouts of our alleluias, that the powers and principalities of this world continue with a free reign. And so as we move from Easter Sunday into the great 50 days of the Easter season, we are left with a question that weighs on the heart. What now? What is a life of faith supposed to look like now? How do we witness to a truth that we may well know but cannot always see, in a world that would rather we believe in the lie that is visible to all? This is actually the exact same question the apostles found themselves pondering at this very moment, a week after Easter, some 2,000 years ago. Imagine you're one of the disciples in the first century and you've followed Jesus into Jerusalem. You've experienced the triumph of Palm Sunday just as we did 2 weeks ago. Jesus has entered the holy city as a victorious king in the line of David. He has entered as the Messiah. You know in your very bones that this sin-sick world is finally on the cusp of being set right. And then you watch as the week progresses. You watch it all crumble around you as it all turns to dust in your hands. The authorities have suddenly taken Jesus and they've killed him. in total humiliation. This Jesus movement, it turns out, has completely failed. And now you're scared. Scared that the authorities are coming for you next. Now imagine that a fellow disciple, Mary Magdalene, comes and tells you that despite his public execution, she's actually seen Jesus alive and well. Hard to believe, isn't it? You're still scared. You lock yourself up in a room with your friends, your co-conspirators, and you keep hiding. And then, somehow, Jesus actually shows up in that locked room with you. Imagine the mix of emotions you would feel in that moment. The utter relief at seeing him alive, but also the guilt of having abandoned him at the very moment where it mattered most. Imagine the trepidation that this must be a ghost who has returned to haunt you as punishment for your failure. And imagine how in the midst of all these swirling emotions, the risen Jesus simply offers you peace. There's no lecture, no chastising, no bargaining. He shows you that the wounds are still there. The damage was real, not merely imagined. This really is the same one who was hoisted up on the cross for the sake of the world. He's really here in the flesh. And he simply says again, peace be with you. When Jesus leaves that tomb, he comes with this message for his disciples. A risen Christ saying, peace be with you. It's a message that the violence of this world really is nothing more than a lie. A message that our fear is ultimately baseless. For that peace be with you, he says to the disciples, is a message of the abundance of God's love. God's love for you. We can run away and hide. We can build walls around our hearts and lock ourselves away in secret rooms. We can doubt. We can demand proof. But God's response to us is and always will be peace. But it's a hard lesson to learn. Notice how even after seeing Jesus has returned, even after receiving the Holy Spirit, the disciples all continue to hide away in that room for another week. They've shut themselves up in there with Thomas. And Jesus has to break in a second time. And a second time, he offers the same thing. Peace be with you. It's only then that the reality and the meaning of Jesus' resurrection sinks in for them. Only after that does everything change. Their fear is gone, and they no longer feel the need to hide. Instead, as we see in the Acts of the Apostles, they begin to live out what it is that they know. And they begin to invite others into this way of life. It is the same for us, here and now. As a cathedral community, as a parish, we come together to be a very particular kind of community in this world. A community gathered in the name of Christ. And today we gather to invite Carter Quinn into this community through baptism. We come together to invite her into this way of life. Through the promises made on her behalf, she too will hear Jesus' proclamation of peace. She too will be shown a deeper reality that exposes the illusions of violence and death in this world. She too will be given the opportunity to share the peace of God with this world. And inasmuch as we all live out together the truth of that gospel message, inasmuch as we all offer God's peace to one another and to our neighbors, we will all serve as beacons to that truth. Inasmuch as we love one another, inasmuch as we set aside bitterness and fear and selfishness, we will make credible to this world the deeper reality that is the Paschal mystery.